The loyal dog that saved an old man's life. What he did next shocked everyone. Mr. Henry, a 78-year-old man, is a retired police officer who dedicated more than 30 years of his life to serving justice. His white hair, rough hands, and faint scars on his hands are the marks of a long career in law enforcement. Every time he walks through the hallway of his small house, the black and white photographs hanging on the wall remind him of the years of hard work and pride. But when he retired, all of that seemed to fade into distant memories. His home sat quietly in a deserted neighborhood, with nothing but the faint shadows of his loved ones. His wife passed away a few years ago, and he still feels the pain of that loss every day. Memories of her keep resurfacing, reminding him of the happy days they once had. His children have all grown up, started their own families, and live far away. They visit him only occasionally, but their visits have become less frequent, and each time they come, they stay only a few days before leaving. Leaving him in the empty house day by day, Mr. Henry lived in silent solitude. Sometimes he wondered if life still had meaning when he was too old to do much more than sit in his empty house, surrounded by old photos and faded memories. In the early mornings, he would go out to the garden to tend to the plants, as if this was the only way he could feel useful. Every afternoon, he would sit quietly by the window, gazing outside at the sunset sky and the golden leaves falling around him. He knew he was living in the past, in memories, and could never return to those happy days. Each step he took felt heavy, as if the vitality was slowly draining from him. One day, as he was cleaning the garden, the old phone on the table suddenly rang. He was startled, as he hadn't received a call in over a week. On the other end of the line was the hoarse voice of Mr. Jack, his dear neighbor, who he had known for more than 30 years. But what startled him most was the truth. Mr. Jack had passed away a few months ago. Henry. Jack's voice came through the phone. "I know I'm not here anymore, but I need to ask you something." Jack spoke weakly but full of trust, as if he were still alive and standing next to Mr. Henry. "Take care of Max, my dog. I know you will do well." Mr. Henry was speechless, feeling as though time had suddenly stopped. He hadn't thought about adopting another animal after losing his wife. But Jack's voice, full of emotion, yet still filled with trust, was like a reminder that he couldn't refuse Max. The dog that Jack had raised since he was a pup was Jack's close companion. That dog had witnessed the ups and downs of a lifelong friendship. At first, Mr. Henry didn't want to take on another responsibility. Loneliness had taken over his mind, and he didn't think he could love another creature, but no matter what. He couldn't refuse the final request of his old friend. "I'll take care of Max, Jack, don't worry," he replied, his voice deep and firm. A few days later, Max the golden retriever stepped into Mr. Henry's home with light steps, his bright eyes full of curiosity. The dog wasn't strong, stubborn, or overly energetic like other dogs. Instead, Max seemed calm and composed, as if it understood the life it was about to begin. Though a dog capable of picking up on every gesture and emotion of a human, Max wasn't in a hurry. It observed Mr. Henry's every move as he fussed with things around the house, its eyes always gentle and full of affection. At first, Mr. Henry felt hesitant, seeing Max quietly move around the house, staying away from the objects and belongings he had placed there over the years. Max got accustomed to its new space, unlike other dogs that usually jump around. It moved from room to room, sniffing around, exploring every little corner of the house, but never making a sound. Despite being Max's first time in this home, it seemed to sense the silence and the desire not to disrupt the harmony. It didn't touch anything of Mr. Henry's, didn't break anything, and didn't chew on anything. The dog followed Mr. Henry quietly, keeping a distance but always present. In the following days, Ho and Patam Kakmak Mr. Henry gradually grew accustomed to each other, and a new routine began to form. As dawn broke, Max would sit by Mr. Henry's bed every morning, looking up at him with bright, gleaming eyes, as if waiting for a signal. At first, Mr. Henry was not used to this. Still, gradually, he understood that Max was the first to wake up every morning. Not because he couldn't sleep longer, but because it felt like a responsibility, an obligation to help him start a new day. Together, the man and the dog would walk out into the garden, where the misty clouds and the cool dew were slowly fading away, to enjoy the peaceful moments of life. What was special was that, although Max wasn't a rescue dog or had any special task, its absolute loyalty was evident through every small action. Whenever Mr. Henry felt tired, when his legs became heavy, and he couldn't continue working in the garden, Max was always there beside him, silently sitting close by his eyes, watching every movement of Mr. Henry. The dog didn't need to do anything more than remain silent, its eyes full of love, as if saying, "I'm here. You're not alone." On quiet evenings, when Mr. Henry sat in his old armchair reading the paper or simply sitting alone in contemplation, Max would always quietly lie beside him. Max's head rested on Mr. Henry's leg, its tail gently wagging as if trying to convey an unspoken message. "I'll always be here with you." Mr. Henry could feel its presence, feel the unconditional love Max had for him. These moments, though wordless, were so profound that Mr. Henry felt he needed nothing more. On nights when Mr. Henry felt enveloped by the darkness of loneliness, Max would quietly sit by his bed, his eyes glowing at night. The dog didn't need to bark or do anything special, just being there near him, and in those eyes Mr. Henry felt the incredible friendship and loyalty that only a dog like Max could offer Max. Though just a dog had become his most faithful companion, and his presence gradually changed Mr. Henry's life in ways he hadn't imagined. The winter evening arrived, and the cold air seemed to paralyze everything in the garden. Dry leaves scattered on the ground, swept away by the chill, and the cloudy sky covered everything with a gray veil. Mr. Henry, though no longer young, still tried to work every day, tending to the garden he loved. But today was different. Every step he took felt heavier, and his feet seemed unable to keep him steady. Since his wife's passing, his health had steadily declined, but this was the first time he felt so clearly that he could no longer control his body. His limbs trembled as if they had no strength left, and his head began to spin. He tried to take a few more steps, but then an intense wave of dizziness hit his vision blurred, and before he could understand what was happening, he collapsed to the ground. A wave of pain hit him, and he couldn't move, couldn't call for help, could do nothing but lie motionless on the cold ground. Loneliness, which had been his companion since his wife passed away, now felt even heavier. There was no one here who knew he was in danger. The garden was quiet, with no one passing by, and he felt like a shadow left only with erratic thoughts in his mind. The silence seemed to grow more oppressive every second and minute, as if time had stopped. Max, the loyal golden retriever, was always by his side, but today Max seemed to sense something was wrong. The dog never took its eyes off Mr. Henry, still lying in the corner of the garden, as it always did. But today it wasn't playing as usual. Max noticed the difference in Mr. Henry's breath, realizing something was amiss. Something wasn't right like before. As soon as Mr. Henry collapsed, Max ran over without hesitation. The dog felt Mr. Henry's weakness, as if it understood he was in danger. Max stood beside him, wagging its tail but not barking. The dog gently took Mr. Henry's hand in its mouth, trying to pull him up. But no matter how hard they tried, Max couldn't do anything, as Mr. Henry couldn't move. Max didn't give up. The dog turned back and barked loudly, its mournful barks tearing through the quiet space like a desperate cry for help. Max's barks echoed through the garden, as if calling for someone to come and help him. Max didn't understand human language, But the dog had a special ability to sense its owner's pain and distress. When Mr. Henry was motionless, Max didn't just stand there and wait. The dog stood tall eyes, always watching Mr. Henry's every movement, and continued to bark, as if it understood that without immediate help, everything would be too late. Max's bark in the still night was like a scream breaking through the silence and loneliness surrounding Mr. Henry. In the night and cold wind, a severe car accident occurred on a quiet road. The driver was trapped in the overturned vehicle, unable to save himself. But when all hope seemed to fade, a loyal friend appeared, a brave hunting dog willing to do anything to save the victim's life. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. Max was no longer just a pet at this point. He was the friend, the only protector that Mr. Henry had in his lonely life. While Mr. Henry lay there unable to do anything, Max fought tirelessly, facing fear and despair alone. And then Max's bark, though it couldn't save him, immediately was like a ray of hope in the night, a call for life. Max's barking echoed continuously, breaking the cold silence of the garden. Each bark from the dog was a call for help, the only link between life and death. While Max continued to bark, Mr. Henry's body remained motionless on the ground, his eyes dimming from fatigue and the cold, and hope began to fade. No one but Max, the only dog, witnessed this entire scene as the sole protector, quietly fighting against time and loneliness. And then, after what seemed like an eternity, Max's barking caught the attention of a neighbor who lived not far away. Mr. Paul, a retired police officer. Mr. Paul was a middle-aged man with years of experience handling emergencies, but now he lived a peaceful, quiet life. Max's constant barking couldn't escape his ears as he walked around his garden that night. Though he didn't know what was happening, a strong instinct told him something was wrong. He quickly moved toward the source of the barking, his mind beginning to worry. When Mr. Paul neared Mr. Henry's garden, he saw Max standing nearby, eyes full of worry, continuously watching Mr. Henry. Without hesitation, Mr. Paul rushed over, and the sight before him made him stop in his tracks. Mr. Henry was lying motionless, his body curled up with no signs of movement. His skin had turned pale, and his lips were almost lifeless. The cold of the night had worsened his condition. With no panic, the calmness of the retired police officer immediately showed. Mr. Paul knelt beside Mr. Henry and quickly assessed his condition. He immediately recognized that Mr. Henry's condition was critical, likely from shock and severe hypothermia. Without hesitation, Mr. Paul grabbed his phone and called for an ambulance. While waiting for the rescue team, he kept reassuring Mr. Henry, gently patting his hand and speaking comforting words. "Hang on, Henry, they'll be here soon. You'll be fine." At that moment, Max never left. He stayed right beside Mr. Henry, his eyes never leaving him. Max's loyalty and patience were more evident than ever. The dog didn't need a word, didn't need any other action than his presence. I sat next to Mr. Henry, his eyes filled with concern and love, as if waiting for some signal from Mr. Henry to continue protecting him. Max didn't run off to get help, because he knew that only Mr. Paul could save Mr. Henry. But Max remained steadfast, sitting silently by Mr. Henry, like a faithful friend, like a silent protector. When the rescue team arrived, their work began quickly. Doctors and medical staff immediately wrapped a warm blanket around Mr. Henry, checking his critical hypothermia condition. The rescue was carried out urgently, and they quickly lifted Mr. Henry onto a stretcher, preparing to take him to the hospital. Max remained there, his eyes focused, watching every move of the ambulance, not taking his eyes off Mr. Henry. Even though he couldn't follow the dog, stayed there like a soldier guarding his post, once again protecting his friend. The sight of it made anyone who witnessed it feel the sacrifice and loyalty of Max. When the ambulance had left, Max didn't rush off to find food or a place to rest. He simply stood silently in the night. The dog didn't need to bark or chase after them anymore. He had done his job, a job not everyone could do. Max's loyalty had saved Mr. Henry's life. This dog's patience, loyalty, and quiet actions brought Mr. Henry a chance at life. And when the rescue team left, Max still stood there watching them as if saying, "This is where I belong and I will protect him for life." Throughout this story, Max isn't just a dog. He is a friend, a protector, and a silent hero. His loyalty wasn't just about helping a person in a moment of danger, but about his constant, quiet presence no matter what happened after being rescued and taken to the hospital. Mr. Henry felt like he had been reborn. The wounds from the severe fall were slowly healing. But one thing he knew for sure. It wasn't just the doctors and nurses who helped him fight through these difficult days, but the presence of Max, the loyal golden retriever. Every morning when he woke up in the hospital, it wasn't an empty feeling, but the warm gaze of Max, the eyes always full of concern and affection, watching his every move as if to say, "I'm here, you're not alone." Max never left Mr. Henry's side. Though he was a dog, he didn't need any words to express the deep affection he had for him. Every day Max visited him silently sitting beside the hospital bed, his eyes never leaving Mr. Henry. When Mr. Henry woke up, Max gently wagged his tail as if greeting a new day. Even though Mr. Henry's health hadn't fully recovered yet, with Max by his side, he no longer felt the terrifying loneliness he had before. Max had become Mr. Henry's strongest emotional support. Whenever Mr. Henry felt tired or experienced moments of despair, the dog would silently sit close, resting his head on Mr. Henry's leg, not saying a word, but conveying a deep sense of comfort. Though unable to speak, every action of Max was an encouragement, as if saying, "Hang in there, you'll be okay." Then when Mr. Henry was discharged from the hospital, what surprised and moved him the most was that Max not only visited him in the hospital, but continued to accompany him daily. The recovery journey wasn't easy. He still had to regain his strength step by step, but Max would wake up early every morning with him. They would walk around the garden as if everything had returned to normal. Max would still wag his tail and run around him, but this time, it wasn't just the companionship of a dog. It was the magical bond between two beings, a human and a dog, as if they had become an inseparable part of each other's lives. From the days of recovery onward, Max wasn't just a friend. He was the one who helped him escape the darkness of loneliness. Every day, Mr. Henry felt he grew closer to Max, not only because of the physical help, but also because of the persistence and loyalty of the dog. Despite his aging with his hands growing weaker, the connection between Mr. Henry and Max had never been stronger. In the early mornings, before the sunlight even breaks through, Max would sit waiting by the window, his eyes shining brightly, as if saying, "Today we walk together again." The two of them, the old man and the old dog, had become an undefeated pair. One once a warrior defending justice, and the other a silent warrior who brought joy and peace to him. Day after day, Mr. Henry learned that nothing is more valuable than a loyal friend who may not say anything but does everything for you. And with Max, he no longer felt like a lonely old man in an empty house, but a man fortunate enough to have an invaluable friendship. Max was not just Mr. Henry's dog, but a friend who was always ready to stand by his side no matter what challenges life throws. When Mr. Henry looked into Max's eyes, he knew he would never truly be alone. Max had helped him realize that in the darkest moments, friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice are the shining lights that guide us through any hardship. The story between Mr. Henry and Max was not just a relationship between a man and a dog. It was a living testament to true friendship. A friendship where bond and loyalty can change a person's life. The story of Mr. Henry and Max is not simply a story of a man and a dog, but a vivid proof of the invisible power of loyalty and sacrifice. When we talk about loyalty, people often think of promises or obvious actions. But Max the Golden Retriever proved that sometimes loyalty doesn't need words, only presence and quiet acts full of love. Max, though just a dog, changed everything when he entered Mr. Henry's life. Max's loyalty was shown by staying by his side and by the silent sacrifices actions that required no declaration, but carried immense power. Max was not just a guard dog, but a friend, a savior in Mr. Henry's most desperate moments. Saving Mr. Henry's life wasn't a task. It was the continuation of a true friendship, the way Max expressed his unconditional love for him. Max wasn't afraid when Mr. Henry collapsed in the garden, motionless and alone in the darkness. He didn't run off to seek help or retreat to a safe place. He did what a loyal dog could do: stay, protect, never leave, never give up. Max didn't think about the danger to himself. He only thought of Mr. Henry, of safeguarding him until help arrived. Max's barking in the dark was a silent cry for help, but it was stronger than any other call. It saved Mr. Henry's life not with strength, but with perseverance and boundless love. Mr. Henry, a man who had once lived a life full of glory and justice, had now found new meaning in his life. Not from past achievements, but from the friendship and loyalty of Max. He had once felt lonely, thinking he was just a shadow of himself, a man too old to have vitality. But when Max entered his life, everything changed. Max had brought him comfort, a companion who would never give up, and a reason to keep living. Max felt no longer lonely as he walked with Mr. Henry around the garden every morning. Max always stayed close with every step Mr. Henry took, reminding him, "You are not alone. I am always here with you." Their friendship was not a simple relationship between a human and an animal, but a deep connection between two beings, two souls that found each other in the most desperate moments. Max's loyalty made Mr. Henry realize that not everything can be measured by time or material things. The bond between him and Max was simple and shared profound affection. Max was not just a friend, but a savior, the light in the darkest moments of his life. Mr. Henry had not only learned the lesson of loyalty, but also of sacrifice. Max didn't wait for Mr. Henry to ask for help. It acted immediately when it sensed the need, just like when Max stood beside his bed every day, even without being able to speak. Its presence was enough to give Mr. Henry the comfort and peace of mind he needed. In the later years of his life, Mr. Henry found joy and meaning in his connection with Max. This friendship was not the end, but a new beginning. A journey in which Mr. Henry was no longer lonely in a vast world. Max didn't just help him survive the crises. It helped him regain the strength to move forward even though he was no longer young. The story of Mr. Henry and Max is a living testament to the power of loyalty and unconditional friendship. Max saved Mr. Henry's life in the darkest moments, giving him a reason to continue living, a true friend always by his side. Max's loyalty is a lesson in quiet sacrifice that only loyal creatures can teach us. Remember, sometimes we don't need words. Sometimes all we need is the presence and care of true friends. Thank you for following this story, and I hope it brings you a bit of light, a bit of faith in loyalty and love in a world that can sometimes feel dull.